welcome back to Sextras,
where we talk about sex and all the extras.
I'm Honey.
And I'm Maria.
And today we are joined by a very lovely guest, Dr Aditi Paul. She wrote a book called The Current Collegiate Hookup Culture, all about exactly what it sounds like. It's about dating apps and hookups at colleges across the US.
Yeah, I believe it's more like a research book, so it's not like, go out and read the novel about this or whatever. But yeah, I mean, she, was talking to college students and like finding out what's actually going on, but she will tell us all about it.
Yes.
Yeah, we just had like a really nice chat, to be honest, and just talked about like hookup culture.
Yeah, the differences between the UK and the US.
Yeah, it was quite a nice little chat, and yeah, she just told us a bit about her research and a bit about dating apps.
Yeah, we talked about Gen Z, which we are Gen Z, so it was appreciated to
right
hear
up our street.
Like a little bit of actual statistics about what our generation is up to, not just us being like, oh, this is my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to Dr Aditi Paul. We'll obviously get into it in a minute, but should we talk about our zones this week?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about our zones. What zone are you in, hun?
I feel like I'm in quite a green zone this week.
Okay, you're going with the flow.
I know that's a surprise because I was thinking grey as always, because as you can hear, or maybe you can't hear, in which case that's nice.
I feel like you can hear it in our voice.
Yeah, like we are both sick and I have been in bed the entire bank holiday Jubilee weekend, so that was fun. I didn't do anything.
Rip.
Whereas Maria's been,
Mate, I flew
around the world.
I went to Florence and I flew straight into the Jubilee party. Like, went straight to it,
Really?
Yeah. Like, my street was having a party and I wasn't gonna go, but my mum was like, oh, well, we paid for everyone to go. So I was like, well, guess now I have to go.
That's so surprising to me. I did not think you were gonna celebrate the Jubilee.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really celebrating the Jubilee. Me and my sister just went and ate some food.
Yeah.
And then we left when we didn't want to eat the food anymore.
Yeah, so fair.
But sorry, I didn't say my zone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still sick. Like, I don't know why this ain't going away. She says that she smokes like the entire day, obviously. But I'm like not really feeling great recently. Yes, also relationship wise, my boyfriend went back to Paris, and like when that happens, it's like I literally just don't really speak to him for like a week. I mean, we've still spoken like every night, but like not really like spoken, And like we've only had like tiny little conversations, and only like we haven't video FaceTimed in like 3 days, so
Oh my god.
it's kind of like becoming a bit rude at this moment. If he doesn't video FaceTime me tonight, I'm not gonna be a happy girl.
Triggered attachment style.
Yes, it annoys me. Like, it just, like, consideration for me in my life just goes out the window a little bit in these periods. So I'm like feeling a little bit irritated in terms of my love life. Sorry for going on this rant. Like, this is the reality of Gen Z dating, okay?
This is quantitative research right here.
But anyway, irritated, like kind of still in the grey zone. Like, get me out.
Yeah, well, mate, you know what I realised is that it is now officially halfway through 2022 and I have not had sex this year.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
But you know what? I actually just don't even care anymore. Like, I think I'm too far into my dry spell. That's how you know you've gotten too far in, is that you just stop caring. You don't even want sex anymore.
True.
You have no motivation.
What is sex at this point? It's when you regrow your virginity. That's what I'm telling
my
you.
My hymen is fully intact. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, love that for me. Love that for you. And love this sickness for both of us.
Yeah, but let's welcome Dr. Aditi Paul.
Guest. Thank you so much for joining us. and welcome to Sextras as well.
Oh, thank you.
We're super interested in your research that you've been doing in your book. Could you tell us a little bit about like what inspired you to do the book, where you started?
Yeah, I mean, it started from my abject frustration of realizing that I'm getting super old. I'm a ailing millennial who has back pain issues right now, and I teach at a university, and I wanted to be extremely relatable to my students who fortunately or unfortunately belong to Gen Z, so a whole separate generation away from me. So I wanted to know what's happening in that space, just as my desperate attempt to stay relevant with them. I'm totally kidding, but I saw a lot of the experiences that my students were telling me about their sexual lives and the way they date and hook up, and it was not matching with what I was reading in existing literature. So I wanted to capture their voices, be their advocate, and look at how Gen Z is navigating the culture of sex, not just how old people like us think they're navigating it. So that was one of the ideas that I wanted to pursue through the book. And the second one, which I really was excited about, was understanding how like dating apps like Tinder or Grinder. I mean, you guys are in the UK, but I'm assuming you know Tinder. I'm assuming you guys are on Tinder. Everybody is on Tinder. So it's now that college students are using Tinder, like how is that affecting their hormones or their sexual drives, or are they just tuned out of it? Or do we just think they're using Tinder the way they're using Tinder? So what's happening in that intersection of dating apps and the culture of sex in college campuses? So that led me to my book.
Okay.
Is it kind of like, because you're a professor at a university, from your perspective, or like
Mhm.
from your colleagues' perspective, do you have like an idea, or like is there a stereotype of how Gen Z are acting in their sex lives?
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, whichever generation you are, the generation previous to you will virtue signal the fuck out of you. Like, they will say, back in our day, like, this meant something. And I mean, we've heard of it, right? I mean, your parents have done that. Like, I don't know what you guys are doing. Back in our day, this happened, that happened. And we always think that we're marching to this land of moral degradation with every generation that goes in front of us. And just like that, we also thought that Gen Z does not commit, or oh my gosh, like how do they even foster real relationships when their nose is always in apps? Like, do you even know how to have a conversation, right? Are you just becoming bots? And we had that kind of mentality toward Gen Z, and this, not to get too French on you, but like this laissez-faire ideology toward relationships. And you know how there's like this thing in journalism where they say that the number of people who are killed in car accidents is exponentially higher than the number of people who get killed by shark attacks.
Mm-hmm.
But people who get killed by shark attacks are the people who are in the news. So like we see a lot of narratives about like Gen Z challenging the norms of sexuality. What is even gender? What is even sex? And that catches the media attention, and based on that we think that, oh my god, like marriage is an institution, or relationships as an institution is under attack. What is Gen Z doing? And that's not the case, to be honest, because like you said, you're in a relationship, so how is that happening, right? I mean, clearly there is a divide in our understanding of what Gen Z is doing and what Gen Z is actually doing.
Mm, yeah, definitely. I feel like my mum or like my grandparents think that our generation, especially because we have this podcast like about sex and relationships, they're like, whoa, it's so
Yeah,
crazy, like, they must be having so much
yeah.
sex. I'm like, Actually, most of my friends have been in like 3 year
Yeah.
long relationships.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that, but like genuinely, like most people I know, or I know a lot of people that have been in very long relationships rather than it being more of a. But then again, I also know a lot of people that love the apps and like
Yeah.
are always getting out there and whatever, you know.
Yeah, I feel
So
like
I do.
it's more evenly divided than people in other generations assume, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is it true that like Gen Z is, you're not like allergic to relationships? I don't think that. Like, and you look at commitment and you're like, I could never. You're not thinking like that, right?
No, I don't think so. But I do get where that comes from because I do feel like Gen Z more than kind of like a little bit of what you were saying earlier, like also are more open to
Yeah.
more like things. And I do feel like there is more of a like rise in like, is monogamy really it and all of that,
Yeah.
you know? So I do get
Mm,
that. But I don't know if it's in a non-committal
mm.
way. I think it's more,
We just know what options we have and we're more like willing to explore them. Or we just
maybe
have the
that's just
language to talk about it, I guess, more. But I mean, you tell us, what have you found in terms of people's relationship models? Have you found that people are having more one night stands, or are they in more open relationships, or
So I didn't quite compare the type of relationships they're in right now. My research was focused on their hookup experiences because, like, the first thing that I checked was what does Gen Z even mean when they say hookups? So when somebody says, "Oh, I hooked up with this person," what does that mean? What do you think it means? I mean, you're the people who are using this term.
that's what I want to know. I think it's an American thing because we don't say that here.
that's
It's
true.
so vague. Like that's what like hookup. I
Really?
think can be like because hookup Americans use it for like getting with someone that's just like making out
Yeah.
or like shagging someone
Yeah.
Like having
which is
sex.
having sex, you know, like it's like it can be, or you can even like hook up and like literally be having an orgy, but like here in the UK you wouldn't, there's a bit more specificity to it. I
Yeah,
think we don't really
that's
have a
true.
term that's just like an umbrella for everything.
Because that is what hookups are. Like the term hookup, it is an umbrella term, and people
Yeah,
use that to use it to their advantage. Because I don't know, you know what? Like America is it's a very interesting country because it's very liberal, but at its core, it's very conservative. Like even when you think that you are liberal, you're coming from a pretty conservative background. And I say that because it's interesting because, like what you said, in the UK, you don't use hookups. When you had sex, you say shagging. Is that what it is?
there's
Yeah,
like
there's
many
a
times,
lot
but
of
that's
terms.
a one that we say.
Oh, so shagging be having sex or making out?
No, it's
No,
only having sex.
yeah, like if you shag someone, like it's like shag,
Yeah,
that's like you fucked.
you definitely.
Oh,
Yeah. And if you say like, "Oh, I fucked someone," that's you shagged them. Like
Yeah,
you had sex with them.
okay.
It can't be you just made, like if you just made out with someone, I'm pretty sure you would say made out, got with, or like
kissed.
kissed.
So what if you like performed oral sex? Somebody performed oral sex on you. Would you still say shagging?
No.
It depends. I feel like there's a bit of leeway with like the LGBT
Yeah, with like queer
community,
sex maybe.
that it's a lot more umbrella termy because I feel like they are just like, I mean, we are a lot more like open about what constitutes having sex. It's not necessarily just penetration.
Mm.
Mm.
But yeah, you would still probably say like gave head or
Or like did bits.
did
Did bits
bits
is
is a
like,
very British
that's an
term.
umbrella one. That's like for like anything that's beyond kissing but before shagging.
Uh, did bits. Am I getting it right, or is it tidbits? No, is it did or tid?
Did.
Did
Like doing bits. Like
doing
we
bit.
are.
Did bits. See, this is very interesting. Yeah, yeah. So like when American students, it's the most excruciating feeling and the most like cringy feeling when like somebody older to you is trying to like get into your lingo. This is the moment we're talking about, like me trying to say tidbits. But yeah, like going back to the conservative nature of the American culture, it's interesting that over here when they say hookup, and women do this mostly more than men. That is, they try to blunt out the specificity of what they did,
Mm.
because of the sexual double standard that exists in society, where if a woman, like, on one hand we are asked to own our sexuality, right, like be very like Megan the Stallion, very Lizzo, and then very Cardi B, but then you punish the same women for doing that. So we
Mm.
try to find a middle ground by owning our sexuality without being penalized for it by using these vague terms. And what I'm hearing you say is that irrespective of your gender in the UK, if you've done something, you're going to be more specific about that. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. But I think it's interesting because we both went to the same university, and kind of the reason that we started the podcast is that we noticed how much people in our generation don't talk about sex, or like there's a lot of slut shaming under the radar still.
Mm.
But I still think that the UK
Mm-hmm.
university sex life is miles ahead of the US college sex life, because I studied abroad in America for a semester, and I was like shocked by the sex culture, especially because I lived with freshmen.
But tell me more about that. Like, when you say miles ahead, what does that mean?
I just think it's like a lot, way more out there than the American college system. Like people
Mm.
will put their cards on the table a lot more, and they're just a lot more open in terms of what it is they're doing. But there's still that under the radar shaming in a way. But when I went to America, it was like people would hang out with someone once and they would immediately label it as like, oh, they're my boyfriend, or like, oh, we're dating now. And I just thought that was wild because that would never
Mm.
happen in the UK.
So how would it happen in the UK?
There's a lot of hooking up on nights out, like when you go clubbing and
Yeah.
that kind of thing, especially in first year of university.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
having a lot of sex, and I don't know, Maria, you tell your like experience of in your halls how you got chlamydia.
Well, like,
How you got chlamydia? Oh my gosh.
I mean, I got it 3 times. There was like a whole thing about the
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Not awesome, but like I'm glad that you had that experience and you like recovered from there.
yeah. So because in the UK, everyone in first year lives in halls. I know that they have dorms in the US, and like that is the like college life as well.
Hmm.
In the UK, it's like only the first year kind of thing. So I do
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of, like everyone's going a little bit crazy in the first year already. And like being in that environment is like even more, And then I just ended up sleeping with guys in where I was living. But because we had like kind of different little
Mm.
sections of the halls, if you will, it wasn't like my next door neighbor or whatever, even though one of them did actually end up being my literal next door neighbor and we shared a wall. But it's like, yeah, it's very much like on nights out when everyone's drinking, it just kind of happens. But it's a lot, I feel like it's very obvious to both people what is going on. It's very much like this is a one
Hmm.
night stand, or
Yeah.
like this is something or it isn't. I don't know, because at least I didn't really seem to have like many miscommunications with like the guys that I was sleeping with. And it was very much a like, we know we're all sleeping with different people like in this vicinity,
Yeah.
but like that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what you were describing is what we see in movies, right? I mean, I'm gonna completely date myself and I tell you American Pie, but I should that's like the holy Bible of the sexual awakening of all college students. Everybody should watch it. That's the millennial gift to Gen Z and generations to come. American Pie. Have you watched it?
I actually
I
haven't.
haven't watched it. Sorry to say.
You have not? Oh my god, why are you hurting me like this? Watch it, watch it. There's somebody who shoves a penis in a warm apple pie. Like, if that's not the elevator pitch, I don't know what it is. And what you're explaining right now is the stereotypical hookup experience where you go to a party with your friends, you're dressed a certain way, like everybody is there to like
Yeah.
do regrettable decisions after drinking alcohol. And after you have like made out with somebody, the expectation is not like, oh, I wish, I mean, there could be something going on. That usually ends up as one of those like drunken nights where both of you were horny and then you like, fucked each other. It's basically not you both fucking each other, it's the vodka and the Long Island iced tea that made it happen. So like we know that story.
Yeah.
And a lot of college students do that, and that was the dominating narrative of what we think hookups are. And that's why you have all of this like, just warning signals going up that, oh, it can be harmful to women, it can be this, it can be that. But then now what we're realizing is college students don't just like hook up through college parties, they're hooking up through other instances as well. So like, I don't know it's honey, right? So like, I don't know if you saw this ever when you were here in an American college campus. But what happens is a lot of these hookups are like friendship based hookups. So I asked students like, where did you meet your last hookup partner? And a majority of them said that they met their last hookup partner in a college setting. So you met them at a class, you met them in a
Hmm.
student club. And the next most popular one became dating apps and parties. So parties are a venue of meeting your hookup partners, but parties are not the only venue to meet your hookup partners. And then a small percentage of students met their hookup partners at work, like internships, but they were older. So like they were in the fourth year and then they went and hooked up with somebody they met at a office party or something.
Hmm.
To your point, when you say that, people going to parties doing that, in America at least, that's still a very heterosexual and a white space. So people of color, minorities, sexual minorities, racial minorities, they're not meeting their partners at parties. So that's a very
Hmm.
like siloed way of thinking that this is the only way you can hook up or you can have casual sex. Definitely a part of it, but not the entire story.
And do you think for people who aren't in that sphere of white heterosexual people, what is the reason that they're not hooking up with people at parties? Is it because they don't feel safe? Is it because they aren't meeting people that they like, or they prefer dating apps, or
So there are three ways to think about it, right? So when you go to a party and you want to hook up with somebody, number one is you need to find somebody who's a compatible sexual partner. The reality is all spaces are more heterosexual spaces. So if you walk into a party, the default setting is a heterosexual space. So that's one. You just don't have partners to have sex with. Number two is even when you do have partners, you may not want to squander that opportunity on a cheap hookup, right? So, like, if you are, let's say, the only Brit in a campus in Vietnam and you see another Brit guy, right? I mean, there is nobody who is a compatible partner. I don't know. I just completely assumed your sexuality as well. I don't know. Do you identify as heterosexual, hetero-curious, bisexual, whatever it is?
we're both bisexual.
Yeah.
Okay, bisexual. So bisexual male. What is bisexuality anyway? Like, why
Yeah.
aren't we pansexual at this point? We don't know. But you don't want to squander that opportunity. Like, we don't want to squander that opportunity by just like hooking up with this person. You want to see if something else can happen. So that's number two. And number three is they online spaces for any marginalized community has been a safer space than an offline area. So for example, for women, the reason why even women gravitate toward dating apps is because you can be sexual in a safer space than in an offline environment, right? I mean, for example, take your case. Like, you're talking about things like chlamydia, you're talking about things like sex as two young women in the UK. What mode are you using? You're using a podcast, right? So you're still using an online space to talk about things that are generally considered taboo or racy at the very least. And we
Hmm.
find our recluse in an online space because that gives us more control than what we would have in an offline space. So for those three reasons, lack of compatible partners, number two is not squandering an opportunity to just have somebody who you are compatible with sexually or racially in a cheap hookup. And the third is a predilection for online spaces being safer. Find compatible partners than offline spaces. But we didn't finish your chlamydia story. Please continue.
No, I
Sorry.
mean, the story is essentially that since everyone was sleeping with everyone in my accommodation, there was like a little chlamydia circle going around, that we were all trapped in it for a little while because we just kept getting it again after like getting rid of it. I got it 3 times in the end, and
Oh
then that
my
was it for
gosh.
me. I had to stop there.
Had to draw a limit.
That's you have great antibodies, by the way. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, I have like a crazy good immune system.
Yeah, she
There
does.
you go.
This is why she caught COVID. She's immune to COVID.
I honestly
She's
am like
immune to COVID. You're
Yeah.
like, I
honestly.
have had all the viruses. But now tell me about your relationship partner. How did that start?
We met at uni in the same place, and I met him through someone that I like hooked up with. Yeah, I met him through someone that I slept with. He introduced me to like the friends that he had made, and then
Mm-hmm.
I got with my boyfriend now, and that was like
Mm-hmm.
at the start of uni, and now I've graduated.
So like I'm wondering, like, when you did get together with your now boyfriend, did you like start the thing off thinking that it's gonna go somewhere, or would you were just like
Oh
okay with this being a
no.
hookup?
No, I chased him for ages, to be fair. By the end I did want to be in a relationship with him, but at the start I
Yeah.
just wanted to be friends with benefits. I really liked him as a person and I thought he was fit. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
perfect scenario. So yeah, having people like buddies,
Like fuck
like
buddy.
fuck
Mm,
buddies, yeah, is like quite a
yeah.
uni culture thing.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
sleepy
Yeah.
links and that.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
we saw that you did some research on sneaky links and that kind of terminology. Could you kind of talk a bit about what what you
Yeah.
discovered in
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
area? Like, does everyone have a sneaky link, or what's going on?
It's sometimes Gen Z can be all talk. Like, let me just be honest with you. Like, that's that, and we were like that too. We were like that too, and what you were talking about is what has changed, honestly. As human beings, we change very little. Let's just be honest with that. We're not like completely different humans every generation that goes in front of us. It's just the liberalness of society in talking about certain things that the previous generation didn't talk about, that expands. So for example, like, did your parents not go to university and have a good time? Of course they did. They didn't talk about it, but they did a little bit to some extent. Like, they were children of the 60s and the 70s, right? Who are we kidding? But what we are doing is we are talking about it, right? Which makes us think that we're doing it. Talking about something and doing something is very different. Like, and I'm going to draw a very grim example, but think about the Me Too movement, right? Were women not sexually harassed? Were women not sexually assaulted before? Absolutely. For ages we have been. But we talk about it now, which has created space for those conversations. So, in the same way, like, did we not have sneaky links? Did you not have a guy on the hook? Of course we did. But we didn't have a terminology for it, and it was not like something we would talk about. But that liberalness in folding those divergent behaviors into a common conversation, that has expanded, which makes us think that Gen Z is doing all this shit, even when they're not. One of the things that I did see Gen Z do is listen, like, you're a generation that has been born into technology, and with technology you're born with options, and the worldview is highly expansive. At the same time, this generation is living on edge, to be honest, because there's so much feedback loop that happens. Like, not only are you getting feedback from your close friends, you're living in online spaces, which creates a sense of feedback. You're getting feedback on this podcast, and that affects us, right? I mean, we're looking for something that is comfortable. We're looking for something that feels safe. Hence, now we are seeing Gen Z more open toward relationships because your person becomes your safe space. Your person becomes a place of validation. So I'll just read one instance when I asked students over here to talk about how did they hook up with this person. So this person said, "We met for the first time from Tinder. We hung out all day in my room just talking. She brought over a movie that she liked and I put that on. And we just laid in bed for a while just joking around with each other. One thing led to another after that. It was pretty chill." So, like, a chill way of hooking up without thinking that it may result into something, whilst always having that interest in that resulting into something. So that's what hookups are. It's not like you're walking in with, like, sparkly nipple covers into an orgy and just having or chattering sex with five different people. Like, no, that's not what they're doing.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's more like the result of the sex that we're having is the same, but it's more like the journey to the sex is different to previous generations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, it's chill, it's like, I mean, this doesn't have to mean something. Like, repeated things mean something, right? Like, but just having sex one time or hanging one time, that doesn't mean anything. See, another thing is, like, when we talk about dates, right? Like, we went on a date with this person, that's our first step of intimacy. But with Gen Z, what we're seeing is they do a whole lot of talking before and then go to the date. So it's not that dates have become meaningless for Gen Z. On the other side, dates have become more meaningful for Gen Z. That if you have decided to go on a date with somebody, then they must have fulfilled these other previous steps. Versus our generation,
That's
we didn't
true.
have that. So, like, our first thing was going on a date.
Mm.
I hadn't thought about
Yeah,
that
that's
before.
quite
Yeah.
interesting. And do you think dating apps have kind of changed how many people are available to us, or how many people are actually meeting? Or do you think it's kind of not as many as you would expect?
Yeah. So you tell me how you have used dating apps, and I'll tell you what I found.
Okay, well, I feel like I'm quite a seasoned dating app
Yeah, I
user.
feel like you have a lot more to say.
Yeah.
Good.
Usually, I would just go out for a drink with someone. I would never usually just go to someone's house, kind of what you're saying, for safety
But like, do
purposes.
you talk to people like a lot before? Like, how much are you talking
I
to
don't
people before
really
you meet them?
chat to people a lot that much before I meet them. Like, I like to just go out and meet people because I get bored from just talking to people online. Like, I feel like it's just too much. And I'm not a very good
Yeah.
texter when I haven't met someone. Like, I don't know what to
Yeah, like, why
say.
do I care?
Yeah, I don't care about you. I've never met you. Why would I text you all the
Yeah.
time? But then, yeah, we usually go for a drink, and then if I have a good time, hook up maybe. But I've been trying to not hook up with people as much on the first date,
Hmm.
just to like kind of vet people a bit more.
Hmm.
So yeah, I feel like it's a good way to meet people, but it's not, I don't want to rely on it to meet people. Like, I have tried to like wean myself off their apps
Yeah.
a little bit because I want to meet more people in person, but I also don't know how to meet people in person, so it's not really going that well for me.
Yeah, that's one thing which we hear people say, that I want to meet people organically.
Yeah.
Like, bro, what is even organic right now? Like, half our time, like, I get an I like a screen update how much time I've spent on my screen over the phone as like 4 hours, but then the rest of the 12 hours that I'm awake, I'm on my laptop. Like, who am I kidding? Like, our
Yeah.
lives are online.
Mm.
So a good way to like think about how you'll meet somebody organically, or what you think is face to face, is through our day to day activities. Like, it doesn't have to be artificial. Like, I don't have to go to an app to meet somebody. I should meet somebody as I'm going on with my life, and then that will be much more gratifying than like, always right swiping, left swiping people. But to your point, like, how is dating app affecting the way we seek relationships? One question that I asked in the survey was, when you right swiped on this person you hooked up with, did you intentionally right swipe with the idea that you wanted to hook up with them? And a majority of people said no. Like, when you do right swipe on somebody, you're not doing it because you're a horn dog. Like, it's, you get attracted to them, you talk to them, and then you know what happens. Like you said, that I've invested this much time on you, you're okay, borderline attractive, really don't want to have you as a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but maybe get a bang out of it. Like, just maybe like satisfy some of my needs, if not all of my needs. And that's how dating app hookups turn into hookups, not because you're going to these dating apps, and we're talking about Tinder, not with the idea that I want to have sex tonight. It's like, sometimes we do that, but most of the times it just becomes like the least common denominator. I'm like, okay, let me just get a fuck out of this.
And do you think that's, I mean, you kind of already touched on it a bit, but did you find that more like not heterosexual people were having hookups from apps, or was it kind of a
Yeah.
similar thing?
No, 60% of people who said that they used apps were non-heterosexual, so like lesbian, gay, bisexual individuals. Like, it skews highly toward the LGBTQIA plus community dating apps, and the way they navigate dating apps is also different. Like you said, the norms are different, right? I mean, even when you say having sex, what does that even mean when when two gay men are having sex, or when two bisexual women are having sex? So the boundaries are a lot more lax, and it's a lot more planned. So there's this one kid who said he even got lube to his hookup. Like, the night that they were going to hook up, like, they knew something sexual was going to happen, so he was prepared. He got lube, he got condoms, he airdropped his location to his friend, all that jazz. So it's much less spontaneous than like just going to a party and like getting drunk and like shoving your tongue down a stranger's throat.
Like, yeah. And actually, on this point about like lube and condoms, now that we're here, what did you find anything about like the risks people were taking when they're having sex? Like, are they having safe sex with condoms? What's the prevalence of
Mm.
STIs? And like, this is such a loaded question, but
Mm.
also, how does alcohol play into hookups and sex, and how often are people drunk when they're having sex?
Yeah, drunken sex is a thing in the hookup landscape, and that happens more at parties than dating apps. Dating apps, believe it or not, people are having hella sober sex. Like, they're not drunk, because before you meet somebody who you're gonna have sex with through a dating app, you're working toward that, right? I mean, there is no ambiguity. You're texting, you're chatting, you're sending each other thirst traps. Like, you have set the precedence. Like, you have shown the trailer of the movie that something is about to happen. So when you meet, it's less of a bold move, if you may. It's just like a natural transition. Now, there's a double-edged sword. Number one is, it's pretty clear, there's no like ambiguity that you're gonna have sex, but because you have gotten more used to this person, there is a certain sense of familiarity, for which the condom use or protection was lower in dating apps compared to other instances. So that's what I would make students wary of, that like, if you're having sex, have sex, but like be assertive, especially for women. Sometimes, as women, condom negotiation becomes a very tricky thing, and you add alcohol to it, now you have no power. So not just for like being aware in terms of sexual assault and harassment, but just sexual health becomes extremely important. Like, I mean, chlamydia is curable, but what if you get something that is not curable? You know what I'm saying? Like, and is that worth it for that one night of hookup sex that you had, where you might not even have orgasm? Like, why the fuck are you doing this now? So, and this is not only for women, it's for men as well, because men are more likely to drink, so you're more likely to not use a condom. So just being aware of that. And there's this, I'm going to geek out a little bit, I'm just going to geek off for a solid 2 minutes. Is that
Yeah,
cool?
go for it.
So when I was doing my research, i I learned about this theory called alcohol myopia theory, which goes that if you have been inebriated, we cannot see the immediate danger, like our mind cannot process it. So that's the reason why we're more likely to have riskier sex. Now, that riskier sex could just be you wanted to make out with this person, now you're giving them a blowjob, right? And just because you give them a blowjob does not make it safe, right? I mean, you can get herpes. So just being aware of that is always a good idea. And college students know that. So when I asked them what are the biggest drawbacks of hooking up through dating apps, they said one is catfishing, that they don't want to be catfished. And number two is STIs, that they don't know the sexual history of this person they're hooking up with, hence they are wary of it.
Okay, have you found that Gen Z, or I don't know if whether you found this out in your research or not, but whether they have like more information on STIs? Like, are they more like, is there more education around it, or are they like being a little bit more careful than previous generations have been? Or
And is there like
is it,
less stigma as well?
yeah.
They're safe, they're practicing safe sex. Like over 70% students mention that they used a condom, they use some sort of protection during their last hookup, which goes to show that they are aware, they know about the
Mm.
implications. But 20% of them or 30% of them not using a condom is also a big percentage. So we want to make sure that the awareness is spreading. And also, I don't want to like pit it on they're being irresponsible. The idea of sex is also changing, right? Like, so for example, I was on another podcast with a sex coach, and I told her that, who are the people who are having the most amount of unprotected sex? Lesbian women. Lesbian women are not having protected sex. Now, what is protection in lesbian sex, right? Like, you're going to put a condom around your dildo? Like, what is happening, right? I mean, what is even protection? And she showed me
Yeah, like the dental ban.
the dental dams. I didn't even know dental dams. Oh my gosh, the ignorance. And I'm like, even when she showed me the dental dam, and I'm like, really? What is that? It's like a deflated balloon and you're poking your tongue through that. Like, we really don't give a shit about female pleasure in this world. What is that,
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't see anybody like being that cautious. Can you imagine? Like, paint a picture with me, will you? Like, two lesbian women, extremely drunk. They want to hook up with each other, and then somebody brings up the dental dam and like pokes their tongue through that. Like,
Yeah.
That just
how?
wouldn't happen.
Make it make sense. How? Like, it's just no. But you should, is what I'm gonna say. Like, that's clearly not setting a good example at this point.
Yeah, this is a problem that I have faced as a bisexual person, and also because I have herpes. So I'm like, I have no idea how to have sex with a woman. Like,
Mm.
I don't see myself ever meeting someone who's like, let's bring this dental dam out and like let's get to it. Because I just think that's so
Right.
like unsexy. Like, that is the most unsexy thing I could think of.
I know. It's just, but it's like more than them not wanting to be safe. It's like they don't have the self-knowledge to be safe. And if dental dams are the only way, I don't even know what to say.
There's not enough information out there, first of all, so people don't even like know that it's a thing, and there's not even like
Hmm.
good options. So it's like, I mean, where are we gonna go from here? Like, how do you expect this safe sex to be like happening all the
Yeah.
time when like there's not really
Yeah.
many avenues to get to there, you know?
Yeah. I mean, just invent something better is all I'm gonna say. Like, should we wear like retainers like for our mouths? Like, I don't know. I mean,
Like a mouth
who
guard.
who knows? Who knows? Yeah, or like a vagina guard. Like, who knows at this point? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Some gynecologist is listening to this podcast and just cussing us out. I'm telling you. But hate the game, don't hate the player. Like, invent something better.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick break from our guest to talk about our sponsors, multiple, for
Oh, yeah.
today's episode.
Uh-huh.
So, thank you so much to Manscaped for sponsoring Sextras.
We're so happy to be working with them because, as we all know, men can really just neglect their skincare, hygiene, health, you know.
They've never even heard of a skincare routine.
Yeah, no. So we're very thankful to Manscaped for providing an avenue for them to take a little bit more control over these things.
Exactly. And they have sent us a whole load of beautiful products. The Performance Package 4.0, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0, which uses skin-safe technology. It has a ceramic blade and it's perfect for doing all of your little manscaping down there, making it all nice and tidy for whoever's going to be down there.
Yeah, for sure. And then you can go in with the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver, and these are a ball deodorant and a ball toner, and they're just gonna prevent a lot of that irritation, a lot of redness, a lot of ingrown hairs, any of the nasty stuff that basically can happen when you shave. But with these products, it won't be happening. And on top of that, you smell amazing.
Yes. And then to make sure you can smell how beautiful it smells down there, you have the Weed Whacker, which again uses that skin safe technology, and it just gets rid of any little straggly hairs in your ear or your nose. And yeah, make sure you're not like distracting anyone while they're talking to you or while they're below you, you know.
Yeah, for sure. And it comes with some anti-chafing boxes, and they're super, super soft. And also a little bag, so you can put everything in it. And yeah, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Let's get to spring cleaning.
Exactly. So go to manscaped.com to get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code SEXTRAS20.
That's 20% off and free shipping with the code SEXTRAS20 at manscaped.com.
And thank you so much to the Natural Love Company for sponsoring Sextras.
We're so excited to be working with them. They are a sustainable sex toy company. Their packaging and delivery is carbon neutral and waste free. As you can see, it comes in these little bags.
Look at this
Discreet packaging.
It's beautiful. And Maria was literally so excited when she opened the box. She was sending me little videos, and I agree that this is like so worth the hype. It's so affordable. They have such a good selection of things to choose from, and it's not like too much, you know, it's just the right amount of good quality, sustainable
100%.
things.
They have like couples options, they have butt options, like clit options. You know, it's very curated but also so easy to navigate, and there's all the options you really need out there.
Exactly. And you can support a small business, help save the planet, while also helping save your sex life.
Yeah,
you know?
their little slogan on the packaging is "Fuck yourself, not the planet."
Exactly.
And that's what we want to be doing, realistically.
That's what we want to be promoting here on Sextras.
So go check it out. It's thenaturallovecompany.com and use code SEXTRAS at checkout for 10% off.
Yeah, so make sure you go check it out, guys. That's 10% off with the code SEXTRAS at the Natural Love Company. And we hope you enjoy them as much as we do.
Yeah, and support us in the meantime.
Yes. So definitely go check both our sponsors out, and we're going to jump back into interviewing our guest. Just kind of coming back to this whole stigma question, did you find that Gen Z still have, like, there's still a lot of stigma present around STIs? Where people, obviously people are being safe, but I don't know, again, if you found this in your research, but how do people feel about STIs? Like, is there a lot of scaremongering still? Are people kind of like not willing to sleep with people with STIs? What's the general attitude?
I'm so appreciative of the fact that you guys are so open about it, because herpes, one of the most common STIs out there, but there is a fair amount of stigma still associated with that, because you have to understand, like, when you see the map of the US, especially if you see it in, like, during election time, like it's predominantly a red country, with pockets of blue. Granted that the pockets of blue have like more population, but it still slants toward the conservative side. And when you're thinking about conservative values, you're thinking about celibacy, you're thinking about monogamy. So within those frameworks, STIs become an outlier. So even if you had an STI from a previous one partner, that becomes a big taboo. And because of that, individuals like Jonathan Van Ness coming out and saying that he has AIDS and he still has a partner is so monumental. And we need more conversations like that as we are moving along in this area where we are discovering different ways of having sex, right? Not just penetrative sex, but like different ways of having sex. And to make room for STIs without demonizing them.
Yeah, definitely, it's so important. But it's just interesting how sex education still operates in such, at least, like, I think the UK is pretty good compared to other countries, but I know in the US it's very different. Like, this whole idea of scaremongering about pregnancy and STIs and abortion and all of these things are just like very taboo still.
Yeah, there was a fund that was approved under the Trump administration for celibacy programs, if you may believe it. Like, it's just like the government is spending like tax dollars in promoting programs, promoting celibacy, when there is no statistically significant result out there that shows that these are effective. It's not. There are different ways of having sex, like, Mormon countries, for example, BYU, Brigham Young University. I don't know if you've heard of this concept called soaking.
No, I haven't.
It's when they put the dick in and then they don't move,
Oh,
because then
yeah,
it
I
doesn't
have
count
heard
as
that.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you have these things that'll happen. Like, if you don't make room for it, then what the fuck are we doing? Also, I should tell you, I don't know anything about the UK, so all of my information about sex education has come from the show Sex Education, which is on Netflix. And I find that show so good. Like, if that show was a person, I would hug it. It's so good.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love it so much. It's just, and like, I always tell my students here, I'm like, if you want representation, do it like that show, because it has a gay black character, it has people who are differently abled, it has bisexual men, and they're doing it with so much ease. It doesn't have to be a moment. It
Yeah.
just is.
Yeah.
And I love that. Oh my gosh, I love it so 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 much.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, kind of like touching on this, we love that your research is like focused on all of these different races, different sexualities, different genders. Like, it's so important that researchers focus on all these things. So maybe we could touch a little bit more on this like Republican Democrat divide, or just like people's political opinions and how they affect the sex they have. Like I think BYU is such a crazy
Mm.
place for people in the UK. Like I cannot even imagine a place like that existing in the UK. And like the fact that people are just so blatantly discriminating against like so many people is crazy.
Yeah.
So could you talk a bit about like people's sexual preferences in terms of race and gender, and if they choose their sexual partners based on their politics?
Mm. I didn't, unfortunately, in my project I did not check the effect of political orientation and the number of sexual partners they had. I did check for something. Oh, I did check for race though. And there are two competing thought processes here, right? Like, that is, white students are having more sex than black students, let's say, and black students are having more sex than white students. So like when people say white students are having more sex than black students, is because there are more white universities. And as liberal as we have become as a society, when it comes to choosing the partners who we have sex with and who we want to marry and who we want to partner up with, we are still very racially homogenous. So we pick people of our own race. And since a majority, a lion's share of universities in the US are white universities, needless to say, like, you have more chances of finding sexual partners, so you're having more sex. And another reason why racial minorities may have less sex is because we are stereotyped faster, right? Like, if you look at black men and women, they are hypersexualized. So you may not want to fit that stereotype if you're the only black person in a white neighborhood, right? And then fit that stereotype and be reduced to your stereotype. So you might want to play in your defense. So that could impede your chances of having more sex in colleges than your white counterparts, because you get labeled faster. I did find out that Hispanic students were pretty high in their sexual partnering. So that's there. Sometimes you just don't care and you just want to have a good time. I mean, fuck society, right? So they're going to talk about some things all the time. So might as well.
Yeah, I mean, just to when you were talking about how our society, everyone's like gonna is still more likely to date within their race and whatever. Literally, last a couple nights ago, Love Island started. It's like a national phenomenon. Like everyone watches it, and this year the public voted for like the initial couples, and like obviously all
Yeah.
the black people were paired up, and like there was no
Mm-hmm.
interracial shit going on, basically, is my point. And like
Yeah.
everyone voted
Yeah.
for it,
That's
which is just
crazy.
like, it's so
Yeah.
wild. It's
Yeah.
so, honestly.
Yeah, like, look at Love Island. I love Love Island, by the way. Does everybody in the UK speak like that? I would encourage you to speak like that. It's great. I love it. Ah. No, you know what, Love Island. I liked Phoebe Waller-Bridge's rendition of Love Island that she did in SNL. Like, she got it. Like, it was so good. Another British woman who I like absolutely loved Fleabag, like, beyond.
Yeah.
It's a sickening love that I have for Fleabag. Uh, like, when the priest says kneel, are you kidding me? Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I am not Christian, but I will convert, Father. Like, I will convert for you. It was so good. Yeah, like, even in like Love Island, and then over here you have Love is Blind. Like, Love is Blind was huge over here, and there were two Indians, and those got paired together. Like,
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
you don't have any options. Like, the buffet is limited. What can you do? So yeah, sometimes you just don't eat because the buffet is shitty.
Yeah, yeah, no, we have, and we definitely have talked about that idea of like, especially in like queer communities and like as queer people, it's very
Mm.
like yeah, I mean, a lot of the time at school, like, you get left out of, like, a lot of experiences because, like, there just
Mm.
isn't another gay person to, like, do all the stuff that all the other kids are
Mm-hmm.
doing, you know? Or, like, maybe that gay person, you just don't really fancy them, so, like, you just don't really get to take part,
Mm-hmm.
and so I do like that. I mean, I don't know if whether like dating apps are 100% positive and whatever, but now there is like a space so like they can at least take part, you know? Maybe it's not going to look
Mm-hmm.
exactly the same as you were saying, it's still not in
Mm-hmm.
like the same level at the parties, like all of that stuff, but it's good that,
Yeah,
now there's all these other avenues.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Oh my God, you spoke a lot about sex today.
So much about sex.
Yes.
Maybe we could just finish by asking you kind of, do you think there's an overall positive attitude towards sex in Gen Z? Do you think dating apps have had a positive effect on hookup culture? What's the just like the overall consensus?
Hmm. Gen Z has a more positive attitude towards sexuality than sex at this point because we're still grappling with, pronouns and sexual identity and gender identity. A lot of times people will identify as queer and not have sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because you came out today as gay doesn't mean that you're having gay sex today, right? I mean, you're asserting your identity at this point, and when the time comes, you will have sex. An impeding factor for Gen Z to go out there and have sex as freely as we did can be impeded by just the divisions that we have in society right now, which have become so evident. For example, if somebody comes to you, like, if you meet up a guy at a party, and like 2010, when this was not a conversation, like, you found him extremely hot and you would hook up with him, but then you find out that they voted for a certain politician who you don't agree with, well, your boner is down already. So the non-negotiables are increasing because of these divides that we're creating in society. So that reduces Gen Z's chances of just like having an open perception towards sex, and also how are we perceived, because we're always living under this gaze of somebody. So those are some external societal factors that can impede your sexual drive. But attitude wise, value wise, Gen Z has more space about thinking about sex more expansively than the previous generation, that's for sure.
That's great.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, good news for Gen Z. Always glad to hear something positive.
Of course, you guys are leading the way. You guys are leading the way.
Oh, thank you. We wish. No, but I feel like a lot of what's reported on is that Gen Z are like having way less sex. And I kind of would agree from my own experience, but like in terms of sexual fulfillment, I think we're definitely on the right path towards meeting the right people because we have like a narrower criteria that we
Mm.
allow into our lives, which again can make it difficult to be
Hmm.
having so much sex, but also you're having sex with just like better people and hopefully meeting people that you can continue sleeping with or maybe go on to date or whatever it is people are looking for. So yeah, glad to hear that it's kind of in the right track.
Yeah, and I feel like it will only get better by, like Gen Z is talking about it more, kind of what you were saying earlier. So I feel like it will only improve from there because that's how like things get better by like actually talking about it and actually knowing what your options are
Yeah.
and how to go about finding those options.
Yeah. Okay, well, is there anything you want to add? Any
So
part of your research that you think we kind of completely skipped over that you think it's important to highlight before we finish?
I want men to also participate in these conversations. It's a very female dominated area, like, with sex stress, with multiple other podcasts that are going around, which are sexual health, sexual awareness based, and there is a prominent lack of men in those spaces, and not blaming it on them, because sometimes, like, they're collateral damage, because we're all fighting against patriarchy. So can you imagine a straight man opening up a podcast about sex, and we're like, what do you care about? Like, you get an orgasm, and like, yada yada, and we shut them down. I wouldn't want that culture to propagate. So to have the sensitivity of folding men in, like Emma Watson told in her speech in the United Nations. Well, she was talking about feminism, I'm talking about sex, but to fold men into the conversation. So like talking about sex, because sometimes having sex is simpler than talking about it. But if we don't communicate our needs, if we don't learn how to receive another person's sexual needs, who's winning? No one's winning.
Mm.
So to
That's so
to
true.
create the space for men to like walk in and say, hey, like, what can we do, or what would you like us to do in gay relationship, in heterosexual relationships and polyamorous relationships. We need to create a space where both our needs are satisfied, so we can have good sex.
Hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It's about the quality, not the quantity.
Or sometimes the quantity does not hurt. It's okay.
Yes, that's true. That's true. A balance of both.
Balanceable.
Well, we would love people to go check out your book and to buy it. So could you let everyone know where they can find it, where they can find you on social media?
I would encourage you to not buy my book. Here's why. Because the book is $95. I don't want you to spend $95 out of your own pocket, even though pounds is stronger than the dollar. It's going to be a couple of pounds lesser. But save that money, ask your library to buy it. And if you do want to support me, please follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I have a website. You can find me everywhere as Dr. Aditi Paul, or I am Aditi Paul. If you like something I said, please reach out and let me know. If you disagree with something I said, reach out even more and let me know.
Great. Yeah, we'll put it all in the description so people can contact you, and hopefully people will give us some feedback about whether they think what your research has found is accurate to their lives. I'm sure people will let you know if they disagree. And yeah, thank you so much for doing this important research. It's really
Yeah,
helpful.
thank you so much for coming on and letting us know about it as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, guys, I hope that you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording with Dr. Aditi Paul. You can find her where she told you. We'll leave that in the description as well. And yeah, just to remind you that we have a meetup for our 2-year anniversary coming up. That's going to be in Hyde Park on the 25th of June. And we would love to see you there. And it's going to start from 1 p.m. onwards. We would love to see you there. Invite your friends, bring some snacks, bring some drinks, and dress in red, white, and pink, of course, if you can. But yeah, we're just gonna have a nice little time, celebrate Sextras, make some friends, meet you guys, hopefully. So come on down, and you will find so much more information about that, and like the specific information about that in the description, as well as on our Instagram. So check us out. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Reddit. That's just at Sextras Podcast. All of those. And our website is www.sextraspodcast.com, and you can find all of the information there for all our episodes. It's all narrowed down really nicely. And yeah, check out our YouTube so you can see the video version of this. And other than that, we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.
You've been listening to Sextras, presented by Honey Jane Wyatt and Maria Jose Hayodatiyi, produced by Mabel Productions.